The story starts with two teenage kids sailing in a water named Sokka and Katara. Sokka was trying to catch the fish from his sphere, but Katara captures another fish in a water bubble through water bending, but Sokka accidentally pushes the bubble and they lose that fish. While they were arguing, the boat loses its control and crashes into an iceberg, and they both lands on an ice block and start arguing again. During this, Katara used to move her hands back, due to which she accidentally cracks up a large iceberg with her water bending. From that iceberg they see a large block of ice in which a boy and the bison was trapped. Katara tries to break the ice block. After 2 to 3 hits, the ice block cracks and breaks into pieces. A beam of white light comes out of ice block directed towards the sky. The beam of light was also seen by Fire Nation's Prince Zuko, and he tells his uncle Iroh about the beam, that it is the avatar which he was searching. But Uncle Iroh refuses and says it's just a celestial lights and asks to calm down and drink jasmine tea, but Prince Zuko refuses in anger and orders his men to direct the ship towards that light beam. After the ice block breaks, a boy comes out it with glowing eyes and a glowing arrow on his head. He falls down and all the glow from his head disappears, and Katara catches him. Sokka tries to wake him up with his sphere, and the boy asks immediately after that. Boy rushes to see his friend Bison, and he calls him Appa and tries to wake him up.
And then Sokka wants to go home, but they were surrounded by ice and cold water. Here Aang offers Appa's ride. Having no choice, Sokka and Katara had to agree. Aang tries to fly the bison, but Appa was very tired and starts to swim in the water. While they were sailing, Katara asks about the Avatar as he was an airbender, but Aang says he knew people who knew about Avatar. After this, Aang tries to sleep, but suddenly he gets a nightmare of him and Appa struck in the storm and falls into the freezing water. To his friend Appa and himself he water bends and covers himself and Appa with ice block, and suddenly Katara wakes up Aang and she notices blue arrow all over Aang's body. After this she introduces him to villagers, and Katara's grandmother, the call her Gran, tells that she haven't seen an airbender in last 100 years, and thought they were extinct. Then Sokka comes and sees Aang's stick, and asks,
"Is that a weapon?" Aang replies that it's not a weapon, it's for airbending, and shows villagers some airbending by flying with that stick by converting it into gladiator, and crashes into Sokka's watchtower and falls down. While Aang and everyone was having fun, there was a Prince Zuko from Fire Nation and was training hard to catch Avatar. He asks his uncle to teach advanced firebending technique, but his uncle refuses to teach, saying that he is not ready. But Prince Zuko demands to teach, and his uncle Iroh agrees to teach him advanced firebending technique. At the Aang side, Aang sees a penguin and rushes towards it to catch it, but he couldn't catch a single one of it. Katara comes to that place and asks Aang to teach waterbending, but Aang says he only know airbending and suggests to move to North Pole to find Katara, a waterbending master. And Aang asks to teach her how to catch a penguin. Then Katara throws a fish to the Aang and many penguin comes too for fish, and Aang catches one of it and goes for a penguin ride. They end up in front of the abounded Fire Nation Navy ship, and Aang wants to go inside there, but Katara stops him, saying that there could be bubby traps. But Aang says if you want to be a bender she should walk through fear, and they both goes in the ship. They both finds a armory room in the ship, and Katara says the ship was trapped since her gran. And then Aang says he never saw a war from any nation, but Katara asks Aang how long you have been. Aang thought he was trapped only for few days. Then Katara realizes that he has been trapped there for 100 years. But Aang refuses 112-year-old. Then Katara says that war has been going for over 100 years and he didn't know about the war. Oh, that could be the reason that you're 100-year-old. Aang was shocked and sits in a place. But Katara says that there could be a bright side of this incident, and while they were going back, Aang and the door were closes and a flare was shot in the air from that ship, and Aang uses his airbending to get out of ship. The flare was seen by Prince Zuko from telescope, and get to know about Last Airbender, and asks his men to wake up his uncle and tell him that he has found the Avatar. And the first episode of Avatar, The Last Airbender, ends.